Hello and welcome to a new Helsi episode. I'm so excited to be here with Shae Phillips today. We will talk about colonic therapy.
Colon hydrotherapy.
Really excited to talk about that. I've been doing this in the past a lot, and every now and then I find the time, but Shae will probably tell me that I should do this very regularly, and there are certain reasons for that. So welcome on the show, Shae.
Thank you so much for having me today.
So that's a field that is probably not known by many.
No, I wouldn't say that it is. It's becoming more and more known, especially in this area.
Which is Byron Bay,
Yes.
Australia.
It's definitely something. Well, it's been around. It's been around a really long time, but it's. I believe that it's come in and out over that time, where it is being used more and more in the holistic space these days. Whereas back in the 1940s, it was used in the medical world.
Interesting. I tell you what. People might not know what that is, and so give us the definition. When I think about that time in the 1920s, I'm from Germany, and there used to be a saying like, before a doctor would travel to you, that people lived in the countryside a lot then as well. The first question was, have you already done a, not so much colonic, but more, have you done an enema? Because that's the first thing the doctor would say anyway. I found that fascinating. And coming back to Germany recently, it got forgotten, even though it was the number one thing to go to. So colonic sort of took over in a much more controlled and probably also more impactful way, yeah?
Yeah, well, I guess a colonic and an enema is quite different. So an enema will use a small amount of water that's let into the bowel, you hold, and then you will release. And it empties the lower part of the bowel, so the end of the colon. Whereas a colonic, because it's moving water in and out over a period of time, it's getting deeper and deeper into the colon. So it's a lot, it's very different. Yes, yeah. But they used enemas to clear out people pre-surgery, and if they had constipation or anything. So they were using water enemas before the pharmaceutical company came in and invented laxatives.
Oh, okay. Which, of course, there's lots of money behind that, so that was probably shut down or at least
a lot
reduced.
easier.
Oh, okay.
Just give someone a pill and rather than actually getting them to lie down and putting a tube in and using water.
Yeah. So what type of systems are there out nowadays?
So there's two different types of colon hydrotherapy systems. There's the open system, which is usually a system called the Libby. It is a wall unit and then a plastic bed with a hole in it. And you go in and the therapist will show you how to use it, and you will lie on the bed and insert the tube yourself. And then you do the process yourself. Essentially, you're letting water in and holding, and then you're pushing the water out, and the water and the stool goes into the hole and then through the tube. This method, some therapists do come into the room and do assist you, but you're essentially on the toilet, so it's not as common. And then there's the closed system. There's a machine or there's gravity fed. So they both use the same methodology, but just a different system. And then in that way, the therapist stays with you the whole time. So they do the treatment for you. They insert the tube, they touch the machine, they focus on water and water flow, water temperature, and that sort of thing. And then they also do a lot of massage. And then at our clinic and a couple of other clinics, not all colon hydrotherapy places, but we do reflexology and acupressure to assist in the release as well.
Closed system means basically you have more privacy, huh? Like there's like a shield over you, there's sort of like a tunnel over you a little bit, so that it feels private.
In both systems, there's a towel over you.
Oh, okay.
But on the closed system, there's a tube. Getting down to the nitty gritty, there's what's called a speculum, which two tubes are attached to. One is a freshwater tube and one is a wastewater tube. So the speculum is what's inserted into you, and then you let fresh water in the freshwater tube, and then you let the waste out the wastewater tube. So there's no mess, there's no sounds, there's no noise, there's no smells, and it's all contained in the tube. So it's very hygienic and very clean.
Yeah.
Occasionally you might have a little spill, but we've got ways of helping you through that, and it's a quick cleanup. And so in the other system, on the open system, it's all open to the senses. So there's noises and smells and all of the things.
Right.
So it's a very, very different experience.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know the difference.
Yeah.
Generally, when someone is referred to having colon hydrotherapy, or they've heard about it, or it's popped up on their Instagram or whatever, they will Google it, and a lot of the time they just click on the first clinic and they don't know the difference between the open and the closed unless they've been informed by it. Okay. So, yeah, I think one of probably my best advice is to do the research and ask around, because you will find that the systems are very different. One, you are left alone and you do the treatment yourself, but you also, I believe, and the reason why I chose the closed system is because I believe that it actually works more with the body's systems, because I generally want people to take their mind out of the equation and let their body do the work. Mm-hmm. So I'm there to help distract them or let them drop into relaxation, so that they can actually just let their body do it. Yeah. And your body will naturally know what to do. Your body will naturally know how to go to the toilet. A lot of the time we have so many digestive issues for many, many reasons, but one of the main ones that I find is because we let our mind dictate what our body's doing. You get the urge to go to the toilet and you say, no, not right now, I'm busy. Oh, okay. And then when you go to the toilet, you sit down and you push it out because you're so busy, you've got to get off to the next thing, you know? Mm-hmm. So if you were to take your mind out of it and just breathe into your body and actually let your body do the work, it will.
Yeah, wow.
It will.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when we go to the nitty-gritty, so basically, so closed systems, much more, well, I don't find the open system really unhygienic either, but, you know, I get it. It's really like sort of all there in the points, so that, you know, you could connect this to your bum, into your bum, get the water into it, and then the water does sort of move itself up to the colon.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that the open system's unhygienic unless when the therapist comes in. Like, I've had an open system before and the therapist came in and wanted to massage me and I was like, go away. Like, you almost don't want the therapist in there with you a lot of the time because of how open it is.
Yes.
But that's also not necessarily needed on the open system as much as what it is on the closed. Sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, so once you push the water up, or the water pushes itself up, normally with sort of like gravity force, which is not the pressure that comes out of the tap. It's way lower, right? Mm-hmm. Actually, tap water versus clean filtered water is another one to talk about as well. But, you know, so you push it up, or it pushes itself up, and as you sort of your colon fills up, then it slowly wants to find its way out again, because.
So yeah, the pressure builds up in the body, and a really great colon hydrotherapist that's in the room with you will be looking. So I don't generally use the machine to tell me when the client needs to release. Uh-huh. It will generally be from my touch, from touching the abdomen, from watching them. So a lot of people will curl their toes, or they'll twitch, or they've got a funny face that they pull, or they'll start breathing heavily. You know, like you've really got to check in and help the client to know when to release. And I guess that's the difference probably between the gravity and the closed, is that on the closed machine colonic, you're more like opening and closing, whereas the gravity is a continuous flow. So yeah, it really depends on which system you're using.
Yeah, okay.
But yes, it goes into the body, and then as the colon starts to fill with the water, and then the pressure will build, you'll release, and the fecal matter will come out, and then as you let the next amount of water in, it'll get in a little bit deeper. Yeah. You've just removed the stool.
Yes.
The one thing too is that a lot of the time, if someone's very gassy, if they've got a lot of wind in their belly, that can sometimes contraindicate a little bit in a way with the water, because water and wind don't tend to mixing together. So it makes it a little bit more challenging to move it. That's why the massage is so important.
Yeah, okay. And feces is really just on the bottom, right? Like I found that as the water goes higher up, it seems to be, I wouldn't call that feces anymore. Like, wouldn't you say that, you know, sort of like it changes what you get out of it after like a minute or 5 minutes? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the person and what their body's willing to let go that day. That's why we usually recommend to do a few treatments together, close together, either to begin with or if you're doing a cleanse or something, because if we were able to get in and move most of the stuff that's sitting at the base of the colon, then you can actually get a lot deeper and start to work through the issues that are in there and the older stuff that needs to come out, because we can carry a lot of that around.
Well, I found that actually fascinating, and I also find that really convincing. Like when you say older stuff, I mean, that I don't know if it's a myth, but you know, if you actually do the samples of what's coming out there, it goes all the way to baby. What is baby milk? I guess you can still trace in your colon, which is really unusual, really, if I think about it, because I would have expected the colon to break it down by now.
Yeah, well, I guess it's not. It's also not just physical feces too. Like we store so much emotion and trauma and memories and things in our colon. Like it's such an interesting thing to try and release and work through, because there's so much in there.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have some examples, sort of, I guess, what you find in there that really is not physical in the end of the day?
Well, we believe that every organ has represents a different emotion, and the more emotional trauma or experiences that you've been through, you can come onto the table and release. So say, for example, I have someone come in and I start to see quite a lot of orange coming through their treatment. Usually that is a sign of their liver, and we call it a liver fire. And so generally, if I say to the person, have you been feeling angry or frustrated recently? They generally will look at me like shocked and say, actually, yes. I had an argument with my partner yesterday, or something like this, or something's come up from my childhood with my parents, or whatever it be. I had someone cut me off in traffic earlier, or whatever, and they will instantly feel the emotion, and then they'll start releasing more and more and more, and then
because of the conversation,
because we're connecting with the feeling, and then they're able to talk to me about it and actually release it and let it go. And a lot of people then contact me afterwards and say, I was feeling so pent up and angry or frustrated, or whatever that feeling may be for that person, because it looks different for everyone. And they feel lighter and freer, and they don't feel that that's in them anymore, and that they're actually holding on to it, and that it's been able to move through the body and pass out, which is such an incredible thing to witness.
Yeah,
it really is. And you can feel it. You can see in the person how they just drop in and they just let it all go. So yeah, it's really
that's such a, I guess, visual confirmation of how emotions store in certain organs, and how then that one is connected to your actual digestion, and how you can release it then as well, which is wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just one example, but there's so many. And I've had a lot of my regular clients will come in, especially if they're going through something emotionally or a really stressful situation, or like I have people come in and see me when they're grieving from the loss of a loved one, or and it just helps them to move through it. So a lot of the time, if a colon hydrotherapist is open to working through this with people, you can become a sort of psychologist.
Yeah,
really.
definitely. It sounds like that's more what it is, really.
Well, I think only if you choose to as a therapist. There's a lot of colon hydrotherapy places out there that probably don't go that deep, and they probably don't open the space for it. Whereas I believe I've been through quite a lot of trauma and things in my life, and I found that colon hydrotherapy really helped me with that. So as a therapist, that was one of my drives to want to do that, and I wanted to help people to work through the emotional side of things, not just the physical.
Yeah, okay.
I kind of leave a lot more of the scientific gut health things. I give them advice on it, obviously, because it's my field, but I also will get them to do testing elsewhere, and I use a lot of other modalities to help them with the physical side of things, and then outsource where you need to.
So when people come to you with with issues rather than just like, oh, I just want to feel a bit cleaner, which is, by the way, an amazing feeling.
Yeah,
and also one feels so hydrated. Just really quickly so that I don't forget, in terms of water, you don't want to just use town water that potentially has things in that. You do want the filter system in front of it, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
in anything in life, drinking water, showering water, colonic water.
Otherwise, you are your own filter. Yeah. So true, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, you just don't know what's in it. And, they say that water in Australia is clean, but is it?
Well, certainly not if it comes through the council, because, I discussed this with Dr. Mark Cohen, who understands water really, really well. And he would say, look, public health is put ahead of individual health. And therefore, we got fluoride or chlorine in the water. It's not a secret almost. It's just like, well, we know that this will help with certain bacteria not forming in our water system, let alone that, in Europe you don't do that, but never mind. But, it's that type of thing that I believe people don't understand, that there's actually rational thinking behind it. It might not be the right one, but the people that put it in think actually they do something good. I have seen in New Zealand people, the whole community getting sick because they didn't have it in it. But that, I would say, there are other solutions. You don't have to use fluoride.
Well, absolutely.
Chlorine.
Absolutely. But also even there's filter it out. If they're going to put it in, they should be filtering it out.
Yeah.
So but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah. I know. No, that's so true.
But yes, filtered water is key.
Most people that actually come to you, they might present physical problems on digestion issues and that type of thing.
Initially, yes. So I generally will, unless they're a referral from somebody that has worked a lot through their emotional, generally, yes, people will come to me for a physical thing, whether that be gut health, skin health, sleep, mental fog, energy levels, whatever it be. So they'll initially come to me for that. And then as we start to work through those issues and we start to really bring down the toxic load, during the treatment, the emotional side comes up. And so I find that I have a lot of people that come in to see me for the first time and they'll sit in the chair and say, I've got this, and this, or they'll sit in the chair and say, I'm just interested in coming in and I've got no problems, which is fascinating. They get on the table and we start to work through a lot of their emotional being. And then when they leave, they'll message me afterwards and say, I had no idea that was going to move so much for me. And I feel so much lighter. And and so I think it's probably just word of mouth and knowledge that that's possible. And that if someone actually really does want to work on that side of their being, that it's you've just got to find the right therapist, I think, because not all of colon hydrotherapies do. But I believe that it also works really well with other therapies. So I get a lot of people coming in to see me when they're working with a kinesiologist, for example.
Right.
So they'll work through a lot of the stuff energetically with a kinesiologist, and then they'll come into me to get it out.
Okay.
So there's lots of different ways you can do it. If you don't find a therapist in your area that is open to working with you on the table, you can see them after having another treatment with, or even a psychologist or anyone that's going to work on your emotional and mental health.
So what's your theory of how many of the people that have digestive issues can actually work on their emotional well-being, or, the non-physical to work on it and I guess eliminate it or at least ease it?
Yeah, well, I guess it's so hard to say, because obviously there's the emotional side of us that affects our health, and stress, of course, is one of the main causes of so many digestive issues. But absolutely. So I guess in a way, when I get people coming in and we are working through the emotional things, it's also guiding them on lifestyle choices that's going to help them to release these type of emotions in their daily. So it's not just like rely on the colonic to do all the work.
Yes.
It's also changing things in your daily life that actually help you to live a more well-balanced, healthy life. And
for example, the traffic person, just breathe deeply. This is one of those things that I really relate to, and I had to really work on that, because I felt it's unjust what you do to me, like other driver on the road, and I have all reason to be now really angry with you, but the reality is you do this to yourself, right? The other person doesn't even know that you're angry, whereas your body really gets into that mode.
Yeah, totally. And I honestly believe that too. If you actually are feeling angry or you're set off that quickly by someone in traffic, I think maybe you need to look at another area of your life where you're feeling frustrated, or you might need something. There's probably another area of your life where you need some work.
Yeah.
And that one thing of someone doing something in traffic to you has just set you off at that time. But and I guess it's also how long you hold it and all of those things. It can be something so simple, but it can also be something so deep if you look into it.
So what's your theory of how this even works, like on a bodily level? So I'm getting angry, and somehow you talk about the liver. How does that work?
It's a really good question. I feel like in holistic health there is so many different methods of looking at how it breaks down in the body and how it relates to each organ and all of these sorts of things. I guess in a way, unless you're actually working through a lot of your emotional trauma and stuff, it's going to store in the body. It just depends on where it is and what emotion it is.
Yep.
So I think, say for example, I get someone coming in and they're feeling that they're struggling with a little bit of frustration or anger. I usually get them to try and work through moving it through their body with an exertion of physical energy. So I say, like letting it out by screaming in the car, which when no one can hear you, or kicking a ball really hard, or doing some boxing, or going for a really fast run or something, whatever your body will allow you to do.
Yeah.
And that physical energy is just moving through the body and releasing at that time. So I think I just didn't answer that question that you asked me.
No, but it's part of that whole process, right?
Yeah.
Of actually how to release it. And maybe that's more important. I'm often asking the why question because it helps me to remember. I did this even in school. Like, just why do we need this? How does this, why? But I hear you. Like, it's clear that it does that your body reacts to whatever is happening in your mind.
Yeah. Well, I feel like for a lot of people, understanding how and why it moves in the body probably isn't as important as tools to help them actually move it through.
That's a good point.
Which is, yeah, I guess in a lot of the time when I meet someone and I'm with them for an hour and a half, and we get really deep and really raw and really intimate really quickly. So there's a lot to work through, and especially because we're working through their physical health, but also their emotional. And so we don't have a very large amount of time to go through the how, what's, and whys, but we just on how to help is probably where I mostly come from, because it's just such a they need to walk away feeling like they can actually make the changes in their daily, because otherwise they're not going to get the results.
Right. What are other really common things, common issues that you see manifesting in problems with digestion?
I think a lot of people, which it sounds so simple, but yet I find it to be such a difficult thing. But breathing deep into your belly, a lot of people don't know how to breathe. They shallow breathe into their chest, or they're not actually taking the time throughout the day to breathe properly. Drinking enough water, drinking 2, 3, 4 liters of water a day, cleansed, filtered water. If you're finding that you're not drinking enough because you're peeing a lot, or you don't feel thirsty, generally that would probably mean that there's an imbalance and you need to look at it, because we need to drink water. Sleep is like huge, it impacts so much of our digestion, because that's when you rest. And then I guess lowering stress and living a well-balanced, eating a well-balanced diet, and then removing any toxins that you don't need, because in life we pick up toxins and things from everywhere. So if you can lead a low tox life in your home, then you're bringing down that toxic load. So relationships, like you could go on, like it's unbelievable. So the way I believe the best way to support your digestion is to breathe, drink water, have low toxic lifestyle. It sounds so simple, but yet it can be so hard. Getting someone to teaching someone to breathe properly can be a really difficult thing. Even chewing your food. So many people don't chew. We don't take enough time to sit with our meal and actually enjoy it. We're either at our computer or we're busy talking and just swallow in between chats, or you know, we sit down at the dinner table and we're like, oh, it's already 7:00, we've got to get bedtime in half an hour, you know.
Yeah.
All of these things, like, and we hoover it,
Mm.
and that's not good. That's not good for your digestion.
Yeah.
In any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Like, you need to give your body time to digest, and you need to eat slowly, and you need to see the meal as how it's going to nourish you and support you and help you, rather than just choosing something that's quick or yeah.
Fascinating. Very fascinating. And so, just to be devil's advocate, and I have some answer myself for that, and so I know there's an answer, but why is the body not able to do its job properly, and we need to, well, interfere and have a colonic on a regular basis, right? Like, so once a month, I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, when we see someone for the first time, we usually see them. We recommend 3 within, say, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Sometimes closer, sometimes further apart. And then it's usually maintenance, which can look like monthly for some people.
Yeah.
Or otherwise it can be like a yearly cleanse where you do multiple together and you're on a parasite cleanse or a juice fast or whatever it be for the person, what they choose.
So why is that?
Why do we need that?
Why do we need that? Yeah. Why is our body not able to do its job?
I guess in a way, probably the best way to describe it is your car needs regular servicing, right? There's potholes. There's so many different ways why a car will break down. You need to maintain your body. You need to continually keep looking after it. Like it doesn't just always look after itself.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, especially in today's day and age, our life isn't simple.
And it's not natural.
It's not natural.
No.
There's so much of it about it. It's not natural. And if we were to pull it right back and live a naturally clean life, stress-free, you know, a slow life, then yeah, sure. Your body might be able to do what it needs to. It might be able to heal. It ultimately it has what it needs to do the job. It's just that we don't generally give it time.
Yeah.
And we generally don't live a clean lifestyle.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I also am a really big believer in balance. I love to have a coffee. I'll go and drink a wine with my friend, you know, like it's just in balance though. And I always make sure that if I am doing these things, I don't do it all the time. I'll have a break from them or whatever. But having a wine with my girlfriend and chatting about my week and offloading, that for me brings me so much joy. It warms my heart. And I believe that in that way, that's lowering my stress. That's helping me to bring down that heavy load that my body continually has to work through to get through the day, to live a healthy, well-balanced life, to feel good, to heal. So, yeah, you just have to find what your balance is. But I believe that if there are anything in moderation, right, and remembering that you need to balance it out. So pick your battles. If you're going to go out for dinner and you're going to eat a really healthy, a really rich meal and you're going to have food that you don't normally, choose not to have alcohol because your body's going to have a hard time breaking that food down. If you're going to go out for pizza, don't have ice cream afterwards. You know, those sorts of things. Like pick your battles, choose what's going to bring you love and joy and live that way, because you can't. I find that a lot of people really struggle with cleansing and living a really clean lifestyle. It's a lot of work for a lot of people. I was having a conversation with a client yesterday about boundaries when you're out with people and they eat a certain way and they offer your children food or you feel peer pressured or whatever it be. Like that can be one of the biggest struggles people have, because if they remove themselves, they go, oh, well, I'm on a cleanse, so I'm not going to go out and socialize. I'm not going to do all of these things that fill me up in other ways because I can't say no. And that's really hard for a lot of people. So it's finding the balance, I really do believe, in all areas of life. It's not just in what you put in your body, but it's also what you feed your brain as well, like social media and TV and all of that. Like,
it's a big one.
I found, if you get scared of what you see or worried is particular, but also the dependency of it and the dopamine, that's a different thing. But if you just see things that actually don't make you feel great about life, I'm sure you feel the stress in your digestion system too, right?
Exactly. And it's like, it's creating healthy habits to live in your daily that can get you through to living healthy within your body. So one of the biggest things that I find that I have a big conversation with people about is being off your phone for an hour or devices for an hour before you go to bed.
Yeah.
Not eating your dinner close to when you go to bed. Those two things can help your body digest and help your body repair overnight to then not waking up, having digestive issues and feeling yuck.
I relate, and I relate to this whole overloading. I think often I talk to Chinese practitioners about that. They would just say they see, the body as a particular system, and there's also rhythm in this system. And if you just pile it on, so one thing that I am told often is eat when you're hungry, not before that. It's really, really important for your system. Not everyone, probably.
Well, another one is sometimes when you are getting the cue for hunger, drink some water or a cup of herbal tea.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time we think we're hungry, but actually if you were to look at the day, you probably haven't drunk enough water.
Yeah, great. We had a nutritionist on the show, Josh Wood, and he does the apple test and would also say, well, so there's chocolate and there's an apple. I bet you if you're hungry, you're quite happy to eat the apple as well. But if you're not hungry, it has to be the chocolate because there's another reason why we eat it, right? And I got apples on my desk now, and it works. But when I'm hungry, I actually eat that, and and otherwise I acknowledge, okay, I just need that sugar hit or whatever it is to get through the day, and that their vices that have a place as long as you know what you're doing there.
Well, that's what I mean, and that's what I was trying to say before about there's vices that you can use. It's just not abusing them, and it's making sure that you're not. Like a lot of people, I find a lot of people will use coffee to go to the toilet, which is just, they'll say, oh, I don't poo unless I have my coffee. And I'm like, it's counterintuitive.
Yeah. It's actually, I had a customer who said this sauna, after sauna, really, really good. It might be relaxing.
Me too.
Then.
I found that really, honestly, after a sauna.
Oh, okay. Right
like clockwork.
Yeah. And coffee is a laxative, right? But you shouldn't need one to go to the toilet.
Essentially, I want people to be able to go to the toilet before a coffee, because the coffee is also pushing it through. It's not a healthy way of having a bowel movement.
Yeah. Okay.
Is relying on coffee to make you go. Essentially, you don't particularly really want to rely on anything to make yourself go to the toilet. You want to be able to do it naturally. And obviously, there's so many reasons why people can't. And looking into that is really important because, look, it's also a really big topic of conversation is what is a healthy bowel movement? Is it once a day? Is it twice a day? Is it 3 times a day? I believe that and from everything that I've learned and read, is that it really depends on the person and depends on how much they're eating. You can't expect someone that eats once a day to have 3 poos a day because they're not eating enough.
That's very funny.
However, yes, you do. You should at least be going once a day. If you're eating 3 meals a day, then yes, twice or more. So, and they need to be healthy bowel movements. When someone sits down in the chair and I ask them, because we don't, it's probably a bit different to a lot of other places, but I don't get people to fill in a form before or when they first get to my clinic. When we first meet someone for the first time, they come straight up into the chair, they sit there and we ask them questions. We fill in the form on the computer because I find a lot of the time when you're filling in a form, you can lie. You can bend the truth, but if I'm firing questions at you, you can't really lie. So a lot of the time when someone sits in the chair and they say, oh, I don't really have much digestive issues, and then they sit down and I say, so how often do you poo? And in that question, I also don't just ask how often, but what does it look like? Does it float? Does it sink? Does it leave a mark in the bowl? Do you have to wipe a lot? All of these questions, yes, you might be pooing 2-3 times a day, but is it a healthy poo? And that can really help with digestion a lot if you're doing a healthy poo.
What is that?
And it's meant to feel good. Like you're supposed to really do a poo and feel great about it.
Great.
Walk out of the bathroom wanting to high five someone. That's how you want to feel. You want to feel
happy about it.
Yeah, sort of relieved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you don't want to dread it, and you don't want to walk out going, wow, that was a lot of work.
Whoa.
And I used
okay.
half a roll of toilet paper,
Right
and I
on.
had to clean the toilet afterwards. That shouldn't happen.
Okay, so that's a good indication.
Hmm.
So it should be really effortless.
Yeah.
And if not, then doing a colonic probably
Doing
gives
a
you some
colonic
hints.
can really help
Yeah.
because not only will the colon hydrotherapist see what's coming out of you, there's no hiding.
Yeah.
You can sit in the chair and tell me that you do a great poo, but as soon as I get you on the table, I can tell if you're lying.
It's funny. You mentioned something that I found is a really fascinating topic, and I find it's not really public, and that's parasites. In fact, there was a time, I'm sure, where it was not, I don't know, permitted by sort of like public health to really talk about parasites more, or there was this whole thing of like, what, you can't prove they even exist.
Well, that, or also in Australia, they were like, well, you can't get them here. You've got to go to a third world country. And it's like, well, that's not true.
Yeah.
Parasite, we live harmoniously with some parasites. You need the good and the bad in your gut. So parasites can and do live within us and don't wreak havoc. It's just that when they're coupled with lots of other parasites, or you pick up one that isn't good for our digestion, or when you're feeding it, for example, and it's just wreaking havoc in there, that's when you sort of need to address it. But a lot of the time we can live with them, and you don't. I believe that it's a really good idea to do some type of cleanse or parasite cleanse at least once a year, so that you are keeping those ones that we can pick up at bay.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, like a lot of my clients do drink filtered water, and they do clean their vegetables before they eat, and they wash their hands, and they don't use a lot of, public toilets or whatever. But travel, you can pick them up. Go to a restaurant and they say they filter their water. Not always.
Yeah. No.
So it is really easy to pick them up. It's so easy to pick them up. And so I think it's just really important to be supporting your body in removing things like that when we don't want them to take hold, and supporting your body in not letting them overgrow and take hold, because they don't just affect your gut health. They affect your whole being, your mental health, your everything. So parasites is such a big conversation.
So bad bacteria and parasites sort of would be the same, or not quite?
No. So there's different types of parasites and worms, and then there's different bacteria as well. So yeah.
And the worms probably come in as eggs or something like that?
Yes, I believe so. A lot of the time they come in, but they also, I believe that you can get worms, like you can ingest worms as well. Like, yeah, through children, pets, unwashed food, vegetables, I think, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Isn't it? I know that my kids every now and then get worms, and my belief is, and I've never really looked into it too deeply, that it comes also just being in nature and that type of thing. And
well, also kids put their fingers in their bum and then put their fingers in their mouth.
Right, but then when
other bums.
Oh, okay, other bums.
Like,
okay, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Like a child will scratch themselves and then they'll go and touch another child. So they don't understand personal space, so it just moves so quickly. And
okay.
Yeah, it's really easy to get them, especially with pets. People let their pets lick their face, sleep in their bed. Like, sorry for anyone out there that does that. No judgment, obviously, but if you do, come and have a colonic.
Yeah, right, okay, because that's a given that they have.
Well, we can also see. So a lot of the time, if someone's gut is compromised, we can see in the colonic whether or not if they are infested and they do need to address it. A lot of the time you can see by looking at someone if they've got an issue in their digestion. So you'll see it in their face, in their skin, in the way they hold themselves, the way they talk, their mood. Like if someone sits in the chair and I read everything. The human body is a map, so yeah. And a colonic, we obviously can't test. There are machines where you can actually test what's coming out. I don't believe that there's any in Australia that I know of. However, I will say, if I see something that I believe, I will get them to go and do testing.
Yeah.
So that we can confirm what it is that they've got. Or I just speak to them about doing a cleanse of some sort to cleanse their body and ask them if they're drinking filtered water, or, if they wash their vegetables, like changing certain things in their daily life to help them not pick these things up is probably the first step.
Right.
because you can cleanse your body of doing it, but if you're still drinking
Yes.
unfiltered water, you're just going to get it again, right?
Yes.
So yeah, it's obviously opening the discussion to where and how they may have come in, and then supporting you in how to remove them or manage it or whatever it be.
So you mentioned worms. So you have actually, like, can that be quite big parasites?
Yeah.
Like how big?
Well, it depends how long it's been in there. So obviously
Sure.
it grows bigger the longer it's in there. They can come from small
2 centimeters.
2-centimeter pinworms
Yeah.
to tapeworms they can live almost the length of your colon. So I haven't seen a tapeworm that size come out. I've seen
Yeah.
parts of tapeworms come out. Well, what I believe,
Yeah.
is a tapeworm.
Yeah.
And then there's also liver flukes and egg sacs, and so we see a lot in a colonic, especially when someone's doing a parasite cleanse. So you spoke before we were recording. You spoke of David Wolf, and he does a protocol for parasite cleansing, and I have some clients that have been coming in recently doing his protocol, and where it's unbelievable the stuff that we're seeing coming out of them, and they're doing enemas at home and having them release at home as well. And they're in one of the clients is infested. So yeah, it's really important to do the work if your body is screaming at you and saying there's something wrong, whether that be a rash or digestive issues or brain fog or bad sleep, whatever it is. If your body is screaming at you that there's something wrong, address it, do something about it.
Okay, that makes sense. And I guess what you were saying that first you want to stop this happen again, so nothing comes back into your body, because you actually filter now your water rather than just drinking your rainwater unfiltered or whatever it might be, wherever it comes from. And then I guess when you talk about a parasite cleanse, that are certain often quite bitter things or quite bulky, sort of like fibrous things that sort of are meant to pull things out, right?
Yeah, and then there's also herbs. There's a lot of herbs and things you can use to eradicate them. There's a lot of different theories out there to whether or not if you kill off the parasites or if you just create a healthier environment where they don't want to live and they'll leave.
Yeah.
So depending on what fits with you, look, there's so many different ways of doing it. A lot of people would believe that you can remove parasites without colonics as well. So you need to find what fits for you.
Yeah.
There is no one size fits all in health. You need to do the research or ask around. One of the biggest things that the best advice that I can give is to, I guess, as we were growing up, we were always taught not to talk about this kind of stuff. You know, it's shameful, or you've got to go and see a professional for help. But if you talk to your friends or your family about it, generally you'll find that a lot of the people within your circle are either dealing with it by seeing someone, or they're feeling the same and they've done some research or whatever it be. So just open the lines of communication and see what fits for you. Shop around. There is no one. Some people come in to see me and it's not right for them. And I'm open to that like colonics aren't for everyone.
No.
Seeing a psychologist isn't for everyone. Like, you've got to find your right way of doing it. And also you've got to shop around and find the right therapist or the right doctor or whoever it be, the right profession for you. Because the girl that works with me, Sam, some people can come in to see her and they can connect with her, and then so they come in to see me and they want to go back to her because she's their person. You've got to find what works for you. And if it even comes down to supplements. I have a range of supplements that I suggest for people to take, and I always ask them, there's some that are disgusting. They're powders, they're disgusting. Some of them are capsules. Can you swallow a capsule?
Yeah.
Can you get a powder that doesn't taste nice down? So, it's so personal. It's all about you. It's not, some people really like a hard and fast, tell me what to do and I'll do it. And other people are like, I really need a gentle approach.
Yeah.
So you've got to do the research. You've got to shop around. You've got to find what works for you, because there is so much information out there, and there are so many different cleansers for example, parasite cleansers. There's thousands of them. Thousands.
And probably also for different, like nowadays you hear about something that works in South America or something in Africa, because they have certain parasites that we might not even have here.
Exactly.
And so you really have to be aware of like, well, did you travel there much? Then maybe it makes sense to use those. Yeah.
But also, you might not just have a parasite. You might have other digestive issues or other health issues that need attention first before you do a parasite cleanse. So I don't really want people to come in and just have a colonic. I want them to have a team of people. I want them to have a tool belt full of things that's going to help them to live a healthy life and to cleanse their body and to feel better, because you can't just find one thing to fix you.
Yeah.
It's just like in a relationship. You can't just put all your eggs in one basket.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
Just meaning like you can have the person that you live with and the person that you choose to do life with as your partnership, but you need your friends. You need your family.
Gotcha.
Like you can't just rely on that one person to feed every part of your life.
No, well, okay.
And it's the same with self-care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't. That could have got a.
It sounded like polymorphy.
No, but you need your team of people.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think people underestimate, or maybe there's just that you can make that switch of saying, you can't be friends with everyone because they also don't, gel. You don't gel with them, and that's good. And it's good to be open to new people, but overall, this wouldn't be a friend. This is maybe more an acquaintance or something like that. And I believe that people don't see it through that lens when it comes to practitioner. They just think like, well, I need a psychologist. This is a psychologist.
Yeah.
This is pretty painful, but I do it anyway.
Or they're the expert, so they must be right. And it's like, well, you actually need to get along well, but you also need to energetically trust them. Like there's so many elements that come into it. And as you say, we choose our people. So choose your team, choose your therapist, choose who works for you.
Yeah. And I remember starting actually in business environment, same thing. There's so many mentors. And for some people it really works. And for some, or that person works well, comes with a recommendation, and I realize that's not for me. And so sometimes I even hold the space and I know, well, right now I don't have someone that would take me to what I call the next level, in business thinking. But when they show up, I normally know, because I have been thinking about it a lot.
Yeah.
Like, what do I want to feel from that? What's sort of like the exchange that I'm looking for? And I think we should do the same for our practitioners.
Absolutely. I mean, look, in saying that though, it's very hard because it's very expensive for a lot of people as well. Like shopping around is very challenging in today's day and age because it costs a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So I think it's doing research and feeling. I think also a word of mouth is a really big one as well. And that's why I say open the lines of communication with your people, because generally your people will probably see a lot of the same people, if that makes sense. So a lot of the time I'll meet someone, whether or not they've come from a recommendation or just from Google, but then I see their family, who they live with, their partners, their housemates, then I see their work colleagues, and a lot of the time, because they're your inner circle, they will connect with me also. Yes. Not always, but a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. So that's why I say it's a really great thing to do, to open the lines of communications with your loved ones and with the people in your life, because you will find that there is a connection there and that you might actually get a really great recommendation.
Yeah. Why did you...
Don't rely on Google so much.
No. Yeah, a word of caution as well. If you use AI more for Googling now, I mean, they use, or for any answers, if you don't say, use only the knowledge that sort of like is more medical backed, or that is, just or that, you get just everything that is.
It's all about
online.
The wording.
Yes, that prompts, I guess they call it. So you got into colonics.
Yes.
How on earth did you get into that? Yeah.
I had a lot of digestive issues from a really young age. Obviously my parents did the best they could. However, I believe it's probably from poor diet, not enough water, and a bit of stress and trauma added in there. However, I treated my body like a garbage disposal and didn't really listen in for many, many years. And
what age are we talking about? Like how long did you use your body as a garbage can?
Gosh, that's a good question. Probably 10 years, from my early teenage years until my mid-20s.
Yeah.
I didn't know a lot about health, and I was on some medications and poor diet and all of those sorts of things. And I finally got to a point where my health was really starting to affect me.
Yeah.
And so I was living up in Byron Bay, and I had a friend who I spoke to at about. I opened up and said, look, I'm really struggling. And she said, why don't you try colon hydrotherapy? And she recommended I go and see a woman in Lennox. And so I did. I was terrified. It's frightening to think about having something put in my bum and a woman seeing my insides. However, I did it. I really stepped out of my box, and it changed my life. She gave me so much knowledge. She was an angel. She gave me so much knowledge on my body. She helped me to release a lot of physical waste that I was holding on to, taught me about what my body needed, and helped me move through some emotional stuff. She ended up leaving town because she had to go and look after her mum. And when I said to her, she was on a closed system. And when I said to her, who do I go and see? She said, well, there's no one in the Byron Shire that's doing colonics on the closed system. There's only the open system. So you can have an open system colonic. But there's there's a need for it. There's something that, there's an opening there. She kind of planted a seed in my brain.
Okay.
And so from there, I thought about it for a while, and I was like, do I really want to put tubes in people's bums and look at poo all day? Not sure. At the time, I was a personal trainer, so I was already in the health and wellness space. I thought about it for about a year, and then I finally went up to a clinic in Murwillumbah that was on a closed system. And I walked into the room, and on the wall said, would you like to become a colon hydrotherapist? We do training. And I just took it as a sign because I had been thinking about it for quite a while. Yeah. So I had my treatment with Ela, and I asked her 1,000 questions, and then I said, I want to do this. And so I had an interview with her, I think that week. And then she said, there's a course starting in 3 weeks. Do you want to start? And so I just jumped into it. Yeah. I just went head first. I rearranged my week so that I could be there every week doing the theory and the practical with her. And at the time, her course was only 6 months. So I did her 6-month intensive. And I also saw another sign. As soon as I finished my course, I found a company in Melbourne that was selling machines, and they had one left because the machine's from Germany. Right. And so I took it as a sign, and I bought it, and it's not cheap. And then I opened my clinic, and I've been there for 7 years.
Oh, wonderful.
So, and I believe that this is where I was always meant to be. Yeah. I love it. It's my passion.
Do you find that there's more awareness of this whole topic, or is it still something that people really need to sort of be pointed to?
No, I think it's coming. I mean, social media is so great. So great for a business. Even if you're not, I'm not, we don't rely on it, but it helps a lot. Yeah. So especially because if you talk with anyone about gut health, next minute you're going to be seeing all sorts of gut health things flash in your screen, right? Right. Somebody mentions colon hydrotherapy, and boom, you're seeing colon hydrotherapy businesses everywhere. So look, that really helps, but I think it is becoming more and more talked about. And I think especially in areas like Byron Bay, where it's everyone's very health conscious in this area. Well, not everyone, but most. It's becoming more and more. It's coming full swing back, because it once was something that was used a lot, and then it sort of, the medical industry kind of pushed it out, and there was a lot of back talk about it. And
so it started in the 1920s?
No, earlier than that. In ancient Egyptian times, they used to use river water and hollow reeds to clean out the colon. And then, in the 1920s and 40s, they started using it in the medical system. And then after that, it dropped back out again because the pharmaceutical company came in and took over with laxatives. And I guess since then, Australia's actually, I believe, well, from my knowledge and what I've been told and taught, Australia is probably a little bit further behind than most of the other countries. There's, I think, but it's becoming more and more well known, and people are using it to help themselves and their body. So, yeah.
Beautiful. So if people want to see you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
So we've got a website where you can make a booking. We also have an Instagram page. My website's flowtherapybyron.com. We have an Instagram page, same again, Flow Therapy Byron. or you can call me. I love chatting about it.
That's pretty
Um,
amazing, actually. I
If
thought it was
anybody
funny.
has any unusual
Yeah.
questions, or if they're feeling nervous or whatever it be, just call me, because I love talking about
Yeah.
it, and I'm always open to having a conversation. Obviously, if I'm in clinic, I can't answer, but I'll get back to you.
Yeah. And I think what I found fascinating is how people think they might be really unusual, and you've never heard about this, and it might be a little bit daunting to talk about this, but the reality is probably there's not much that you haven't seen, right?
Not much that I haven't seen. I actually said to a client yesterday, she's like, "Oh, tell me if I'm overstepping here, if there's a line and I'm crossing it." I was like, "There is no line in this room."
Yeah, wonderful.
There can't be.
Yeah.
Like there literally can't be, because we have to talk about it all. We have to talk about all of the stuff that you don't talk about with everybody else. We have to get to the nitty gritty. We have to talk about your emotions and what your bowels are doing, and
Yeah.
down to smell.
Yeah, because they are all indications, right?
Absolutely. So there is no too much information.
Do you find that any?
There's probably too little information.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not some. This is where I feel like, man, the education system could do just a better job of actually equipping us to understand our body. You know, just like what's considered more normal and what's considered a sign that something is a little bit off. We would catch things earlier, I reckon.
Well, yeah, I guess the education system, if you're in the mainstream, is all governed by what they want you to know, right?
Yeah. And there's also just a delay of actually catching up with things. You know, some people say like, look, it's normally 30 years delayed, which is a long time. Yeah, I don't know. I have friends with kids in the mainstream. It's a hit and miss on the individual as well.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, very individual. So it's right for some people, and but again, it's just all about opening the conversations.
Yeah.
Sitting it's so funny, because we sit down, catch up with friends, and we're all talking and catching up and talking about our weeks. And then the moment we sit down to a meal, someone says, "So Shae, how's work?" I'm like, is that just because you're getting, you're about to put food in, you're thinking about it?
Yeah.
Now's not the right time to talk about my work.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
But yeah, it is quite funny. But yes, and I think, our parents, and it was such a taboo subject. It was not talked about. You just do it behind closed doors, and it's private. It's very private. And look, I believe it. Yes, it is private in some way, but it also, we all do it. Or we all should do it.
Yeah.
And it should be a great experience. So why not talk about it?
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I guess some people feel more comfortable in women's or in men's circles to talk about that.
Yeah.
And, these things really have come up again. I'm sure there was a phase in the 70s maybe where that was more common, but I feel there's that acknowledgement that those topics sometimes are easier to discuss actually in groups like that.
Yeah. And I think, and if you do find it really challenging to open up to a friend or a family member, then seek help from someone, because we all need it, we all need help.
Like an initial consultation, so that takes, did you say about 90 minutes or 120?
We do an hour and a half for an initial. We usually sit with you for about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how much the person needs.
Yeah.
And then you jump on the table for around 45 to 50 minutes.
Right.
So...
And people have the choice of how much they interact with you or not, I guess.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I find people come in and they'll sit down and they'll answer all of my questions, and then we get them on the table and they lie there with their eyes closed. They don't want to see it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to know anything. They just want to get it out. But what's really fascinating is that I find with some people, not all, but with some people, until we start talking about it, they won't release.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
right?
Sometimes I think, it's better to be open to it. And I also find too that I have, say for example, if you were to come in and see me and then you're like, oh, my wife or this partner of mine, this friend of mine really needs it, I'm going to book them in. And then you'll book them in, and then they'll reschedule and cancel a few times, and then when I see them, they don't have a great experience. I truly do believe that you've got to find it, when it calls to you or when you feel comfortable with it, that's when you should do it, because that's when it'll work.
Yeah.
If you're pushing up against it and you're like, oh, I really don't want to go, I'm really, really struggling with this, like either call me and we can talk about it and we can work through those blocks, or maybe it's just not right for you, or maybe I'm not right for you, or, you know, I think it's the recommendation is always great, but I think sometimes you actually just really need to feel into it and feel the call into it, because that's when it'll really work and you'll move mountains.
So just a couple of pointers that would good to see a specialist like yourself. I mean, as you said, like maintenance, that's a good thing. Do it once a month anyway. It's a wonderful experience and you feel just so clean afterwards. It's
Yeah,
really
you
amazing.
do. I love that feeling when you walk out of a colonic
Yeah.
and you're just like on a cloud.
Yeah. How good is
Yeah.
that? But some pointers that this really might shift some issues you experience probably will. The most obvious one will be indigestion or digestion problems in general of all sorts, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Like, I would say, I would say yes, digestion would be a big one. However, I get a lot of referrals from skin clinics if someone's
That
having
would
a lot
be
of
the
skin
next I wanted
issues.
to
Yeah,
ask you
because
for.
a lot of the time, like, I have people come in and see me and they don't have much of an issue with their digestion, but their body is screaming at them in other ways. So disease and dysbiosis shows in the body in different ways in different people. So it doesn't always mean that it's going to affect your poop. It could affect your skin. It could affect your sleep. It could affect your mental clarity, your mental health, down to your nails, your hair, like it could be, there could be so many signs that you need a cleanse. You just have to tune into your body and listen to what it's telling you, because it screams.
Is there a typical age that would go, like, would you say even children or teenagers could actually really benefit from it?
We don't treat children.
Okay.
I believe that mainly one of the main reasons is because a child would struggle to understand
Yes.
another adult putting something in their bum, and that can be really traumatizing.
Fair
So
enough.
starting there,
Yes.
but there's a lot of other reasons.
Mhm.
So I've seen, the youngest age I've seen is 16.
Yeah.
A male and female.
Mhm.
I had a really in-depth conversation with their parent beforehand, and then I spoke a lot to the child, to the teenager before going through with the treatment.
Yeah.
And then right up until you're 80 or 90.
Yeah, probably more and more the older you get, maybe if your
Yeah.
metabolism slows down. I don't know how that is
Well, I think
related.
also I believe that I find with a lot of that older generation, because our generation is so much more aware and we talk about it a lot more and we're doing the work. So I feel that I meet a lot of parents who have got children that are doing the work, and then the parents want to open up and do it as well. So I find that a lot. I also see a lot of elderly people or older people that are sick of living with an issue, and they I guess in a way they're getting older and they want to live longer, so they come in and they want to address the issues that they never have, or they see their parents passing away of certain things and it almost frightens them into it. They go, oh shit, I should probably look into my health.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things. So it's so broad. It's so broad. But yeah, any age, I guess. Yeah, from 16 onwards, I probably wouldn't see someone younger.
No,
than
that
age.
makes a lot of sense what you're saying there.
Yeah,
'Cause-
there's some clinics that do. There are children's speculums that you
Yeah.
can get for children that have really severe issues or that have been recommended by many practitioners or doctors to have them. You can, an enema is also a great
Yeah.
way to support a child if they're open to it.
That's
'cause
what we do with worms.
Yeah.
If it comes up and they can't sleep, it's like, oh, enema takes 5-10 minutes and you
Yeah.
actually can sleep. Yeah.
And the tube is a lot smaller.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're
Terrific.
at home with their parents, so that makes a difference.
Is there anything I should ask you before I let you go? Is there anything that comes to mind?
I feel like we've touched on
Mm.
so many different ways and subjects to do with colon hydrotherapy, but
Yeah. It's really whole body. It's the full spectrum, not only body. It's also it's mental and spiritual in a sense as well. It's absolutely amazing, and I'm so grateful that you do that work. But because it is community work, really. At the end of the day, right?
absolutely, yeah. And it's intimate, it's raw, so I get to know people really quickly, and we get deep real fast. So it's nice for people to connect in that way if they haven't got very many people in their life to connect with on that level. So
I can tell you've been exposed to a lot, which gives you, I guess, sort of that ease and that calmness around this topic, which is, I guess, what you're looking for in a therapist. It's like, you have problems, and so has everyone else.
Yeah.
And I've seen that all, and let's work
through
it.
it.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
here to support
That's wonderful.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's very cool.
Yeah. I guess also it helps that I've had my fair share of not just digestive issues, but mental health as well. So it's always, I find it's really great to find a therapist that you can relate to that may have had the same, because I think I think a lot of the time we can learn from books and podcasts and doing courses and all that kind of stuff, but your personal experience can give you a deeper insight.
Yeah, definitely. I relate to that a lot. Amazing. Shae, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so
really
much for
appreciate
having
your
me.
time. I learned a lot, and I hope the audience will too. And if they want to look you up, that was Flow Therapy Byron.
Mm-hmm. Flow Therapy Byron.
Cool.
I've also got an email. You can always shoot me through a few questions that you've got.
You go for it. What is the email address?
hello@flowtherapybyron.com.
Beautiful. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope today's conversation inspired you. If you found value in it, please share this episode with someone who could benefit from its insights. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to follow us to stay in the loop and have the best life ever.